What if I told you that Edgar Cayce, the most documented psychic in American history, once gave a series of readings so shocking, so controversial, that his own team debated whether they should ever be published? What if I told you that this case involved a soul who had once been one of history's most infamous figures, someone responsible for immense suffering, reincarnated in the body of a quiet, unsuspecting American? What if Cayce didn't just identify the reincarnated identity, but describe why such a soul would return, and how karma, forgiveness, and spiritual law intersected in this one extraordinary life? Welcome to the most controversial reincarnation Cayce ever studied, a story so profound that it challenges everything we believe about morality, punishment, and the purpose of reincarnation. Before we dive into the jaw-dropping revelations found in this reading, make sure to stay with us, because what you're about to discover may forever change your understanding of karma, redemption, and the very structure of the soul's journey. Through time. In this deep dive, we'll explore the mysterious identity at the heart of the controversy, why Cayce believed this reincarnation happened, how the individual responded when told of their past life, and what it all means for us, every one of us walking through life unaware of the invisible threads that may tie us to lives we've lived. The four, ready to have your perspective turned inside out? Edgar Cayce's perspective on reincarnation was not merely a curiosity, but a foundational aspect of his entire spiritual worldview. For him, reincarnation was not a form of punishment or damnation, but rather a divine educational system designed to facilitate the soul's gradual evolution. Souls, according to Cayce, did not simply exist in a linear progression of life and death. Instead, they engaged in a cyclical journey that allowed them to learn from experiences, resolve karmic debts, and ultimately move closer to unity with the Creator. This was a radical departure from many prevailing religious doctrines of his time, especially in the Western Christian tradition, where reincarnation was often dismissed or outright denied. Cayce described the soul's journey as a process of continuous refinement. Each lifetime presented a set of challenges, both external and internal, that the soul had to navigate. These challenges were not random. They were intricately linked to the soul's previous actions, intentions, and unresolved issues. Karma, then, was not a system of reward or punishment meted out by an external judge, but rather a natural law much like gravity, operating with perfect fairness to guide the soul's progress. Souls would return again and again, not because they were condemned, but because they had work to complete, lessons to learn, debts to balance, and a deeper understanding to attain. This framework allowed for an expansive view of morality and justice, one that emphasized healing over retribution. Souls that had caused great harm in one lifetime were given opportunities in subsequent incarnations to make amends, cultivate compassion, and elevate their spiritual vibration. Cayce's readings often emphasized that the soul's ultimate destiny was to achieve oneness with the divine, a state where dualities such as good and evil, sinner and saint, cease to exist. The soul's journey was a pilgrimage toward that sacred unity. Understanding this framework is crucial when considering the controversial reincarnation case Cayce studied. The theological stakes here are high. In Western Christianity, the concept of sin, judgment, and eternal punishment often dominates the spiritual conversation. Cayce's model challenged this by proposing a more fluid and compassionate process, one where souls are not eternally damned, but are always given chances for redemption and growth. This perspective invites us to reconsider our assumptions about justice, forgiveness, and the meaning of a life lived. For those familiar with Cayce's readings, reincarnation is not an abstract metaphysical idea, but a practical reality with profound ethical implications. It offers a lens through which to view human suffering, historical tragedies, and personal failings not as final condemnations, but as necessary steps in a larger, divine curriculum. The soul's passage through many lives serves a higher purpose: the ongoing education of spirit toward enlightenment. This radical framework sets the stage for understanding why the particular case revealed so controversial and unsettling fits within a larger, compassionate cosmic plan. Cayce's radical framework of reincarnation as a spiritual education. His explanation of karma plays a central role in how souls evolve over multiple lifetimes. For Cayce, karma was not a concept of divine retribution, but a fundamental law of cause and effect that extends beyond a single lifetime. Every action, intention, or decision, whether positive or negative, creates ripples that influence not only the present life, but future incarnations as well. This understanding elevates karma from mere moral judgment to a dynamic, interconnected process through which the soul learns and grows. In many of Cayce's readings, he detailed how difficulties, health problems, or emotional struggles faced in the current life often stemmed from unresolved actions or choices made in past lives. One poignant example involved a woman suffering chronic illness. Cayce's reading revealed that in a previous incarnation, she had neglected acts of kindness and compassion, and this spiritual imbalance manifested physically. Another reading showed a man dealing with deep fears and mistrust, traced back to a past life where he had betrayed close allies. These examples illustrate that karma is less about punishment and more about the natural unfolding of cause and consequence, providing opportunities for the soul to recognize and amend past mistakes. Moreover, Cayce's view of karma incorporates a profound sense of responsibility and hope. Souls are not passive victims of fate, but active participants in their evolution. Even when bearing heavy karmic burdens, the soul's journey is one of empowerment. It has the capacity to transform, to atone, and to consciously redirect its course. The very existence of karma as a binding law underlines the importance of conscious living, where each choice carries spiritual weight far beyond the immediate consequences. This understanding also introduces a complex and somewhat unsettling idea: souls that have committed egregious acts or caused immense suffering, what one might call dark souls, do not simply disappear or face eternal condemnation. Instead, these souls often return in subsequent lives to balance their karmic accounts, sometimes in roles that seem paradoxical or unexpected. They might be born into humble circumstances, embodying traits that sharply contrast with their previous lives, or they might encounter situations that force profound inner reckoning and growth. This sets the stage for the controversy at the heart of Cayce's most debated reincarnation case. The reading in question revealed a soul with a particularly dark and infamous past who had returned in a seemingly unremarkable modern life. This revelation challenged common beliefs about justice and the soul's journey by highlighting the delicate and often hidden interplay between karma, forgiveness, and spiritual evolution. Rather than simply labeling souls as good or evil, Cayce's insight invites us to view these individuals as complex beings, engaged in ongoing work toward balance and enlightenment. Thus, karma, as Cayce understood it, is not an external punishment, but an internal mechanism of growth, a force that binds lifetimes together and shapes the soul's ongoing transformation. It challenges simplistic moral categories and encourages a deeper exploration of how every soul, regardless of its past, carries the potential for redemption. The transition from understanding karma's role in soul evolution leads us directly to the heart of the matter, the controversial case that has puzzled and fascinated Cayce's followers for decades. The individual at the center of this story came to Cayce seeking relief from a series of troubling physical ailments, deep-seated depression, and a persistent, unexplained sense of guilt. From the outside, he appeared to be an ordinary man burdened by common struggles, Yet, as Cayce entered trance and accessed his Akashic records, what emerged was anything but ordinary. The reading revealed that this man's soul had once lived during the early days of Christianity, a time rife with conflict, persecution, and upheaval. According to Cayce's descriptions, the soul had occupied a position of power within a Roman authority structure, one implicated in ordering brutal executions and relentless oppression of those who practiced the new faith. This revelation sent ripples of shock throughout Cayce's circle. Here was a man whose current life was peaceful and unassuming, connected through karma and reincarnation to one of history's most notorious roles. However, the exact identity remained cloaked in mystery, leading to spirited debates among scholars and Cayce enthusiasts alike. Some argued that Cayce's words alluded directly to infamous figures responsible for the mass executions of early Christians, names like Pontius Pilate or other Roman officials notorious for their cruelty. Others believed the reference might have been more symbolic, pointing instead to a figure from a later era who carried similar karmic weight. Regardless of the specifics, what remained clear was the profound nature of this soul's journey. From a life marked by inflicting suffering to one burdened by remorse and a search for healing. This case challenges conventional narratives about justice and morality. It forces us to grapple with the uncomfortable possibility that souls who once caused great harm are not eternally condemned, but return to face their karma in new, often humbling forms. The man's physical and emotional struggles in this life, then, become part of the spiritual process of reckoning and transformation. By revealing such a startling past, Cayce opened the door into understanding how the soul's path can traverse the darkest chapters of human history and emerge into opportunities for redemption. The controversy surrounding this reading arises precisely because it refuses to simplify the soul's journey into neat categories of good or evil. Instead, it invites a deeper contemplation of forgiveness, responsibility, and the intricate dance of karma across lifetimes, the moment that irrevocably shifted the understanding of reincarnation. In Cayce's work came through the reading that explicitly connected the present-day man to his dark past life. The transcript, preserved carefully by Cayce's team, reveals a voice that is calm yet laden with solemnity, as if the information transcended mere facts and tapped into profound spiritual truths. Edgar Cayce did not speak lightly or with judgment. Instead, his tone conveyed a deep sense of the soul's complexity and the weight of its journey through time. In this particular reading, Cayce detailed the identity of the soul as one once involved in the systematic persecution of early Christians. While the name was not explicitly given, partly to protect the living individual, and partly because the true essence of the soul transcended any single historical label, there was no ambiguity about the role this soul had played. It was a role associated with authority, enforcement, and the infliction of suffering on a large scale. This was a soul that, in a previous life, had been responsible for decisions leading to immense pain and loss. What made this reading groundbreaking was not merely the identification of the past life, but the explanation of why this soul had returned in such a humbling incarnation. Cayce's voice softened as he explained that the purpose of this current life was fundamentally redemptive. The soul was now positioned to experience suffering firsthand, not as a persecutor, but as one who bore physical and emotional pain. This suffering was not punishment, but a necessary path to cultivating empathy, compassion, and understanding from the other side of the experience. The reading emphasized that the soul's journey involved coming to terms with the consequences of its past actions by walking in the shoes of those once oppressed. The depression and physical ailments that afflicted the client were framed as manifestations of the soul's deep internal conflict and unresolved karma. These conditions served as catalysts for spiritual awakening and transformation, offering the opportunity to begin the healing process not only for itself, but for the collective wounds that its previous life had helped inflict. Throughout the transcript, Cayce's language was both clinical and reverent. He carefully balanced factual details about the soul's past role with a clear message of hope. This was not a reading meant to condemn or shame, but to illuminate the profound workings of spiritual law. The subtle tone shifts in Cayce's trance. Voice suggested moments of awe, perhaps at the soul's courage to return and face such a challenging incarnation or conflict, reflecting the tension between justice and mercy. By framing the incarnation as an intentional and necessary step. On the soul's path, Cayce invited his audience to reconsider traditional ideas about guilt and redemption. The reading subtly dismantled binary notions of good versus evil and instead presented a more nuanced spiritual reality, that souls are complex, evolving beings who must sometimes endure great suffering in order to restore balance and move toward unity with the divine. This reading, kept for years under wraps due to its explosive implications, eventually became a cornerstone for those studying Cayce's views on karma, reincarnation, and forgiveness. It remains a powerful reminder that beneath the surface of every human life lies a hidden history, a vast spiritual tapestry woven from past lives, lessons learned, and ongoing transformation. The reverberations of this extraordinary reading extended far beyond the session itself, affecting everyone involved in its transmission and interpretation. Edgar Cayce's stenographers, those entrusted with capturing every word of his trance sessions, were among the first to grasp the gravity of what had been revealed. They were no strangers to dramatic or sensitive material. Cayce's work often touched on difficult topics, but this particular case felt different. The reading exposed a past life that unsettled deeply ingrained notions of identity and morality, making it clear that the implications would ripple well beyond spiritual theory into the realm of personal reckoning. Within Cayce's inner circle, opinions diverged sharply. Some members felt the reading was too sensitive, too volatile to be released publicly. They feared it might cause harm, stigmatize the subject, or provoke backlash from those who rejected the idea of reincarnation altogether. The decision to withhold or cautiously frame the reading was born out of a desire to protect the individual and the integrity of Cayce's work. Others, however, argued passionately that this reading was precisely the kind of evidence needed to demonstrate reincarnation's profound spiritual justice. For them, it was an unvarnished glimpse into the soul's journey that transcended simple notions of good and evil, illustrating how karma operates on a deep and intricate level. As for the subject himself, the emotional complexity was immense. Imagine the shock of being told that your current struggles, your pain, your guilt, your depression are connected to a lifetime where you were responsible for immense suffering inflicted on others. The psychological impact was not underestimated by Cayce's team. They approached the subject with care and compassion, guiding him through the revelation as gently as possible. The man wrestled with feelings of remorse and confusion, but also a cautious hope. It was clear he understood that this knowledge was not meant to condemn, but to offer a pathway toward healing and transformation. Processing such a profound truth challenges one's entire sense of self. How does someone reconcile the idea that the soul they inhabit now once caused unimaginable harm? This confrontation with a darker past can provoke deep introspection, a reevaluation of values, and a renewed commitment to live differently. The subject's experience highlights the spiritual necessity of facing one's karma honestly, without denial or despair, because only through this honest confrontation can true growth occur. The tension between the desire to protect and the imperative to reveal reflects the broader human struggle with accountability and forgiveness. This case became a living example of Cayce's teachings, illustrating that the soul's path is neither simple nor easy, but is ultimately oriented toward redemption and reunion with the divine. This case naturally invites us into one of the most Profound philosophical dilemmas embedded in the concept of reincarnation. Should souls who have committed great wrongs, those often labeled evil, be allowed to return and essentially start over? At first glance, this notion can be unsettling, even controversial. Many would question the fairness of giving such souls additional chances, especially when their past actions have inflicted deep pain. Yet, Cayce's teachings invite us to look beyond surface judgments and explore a more nuanced understanding of cosmic justice, forgiveness, and grace. Cayce was clear that reincarnation was never about punitive cycles, but about opportunities for growth and healing. The universe, in his view, operates on laws that are ultimately merciful and designed to bring every soul toward enlightenment. The idea that evil souls are granted reincarnation privileges challenges common human concepts of justice, but aligns with a divine vision that is inclusive rather than exclusionary. Cayce insisted that every soul, regardless of its past, remains an integral part of the divine whole. This means even those who have fallen farthest from spiritual light are not abandoned or eternally damned. They are given the chance to redeem themselves through sincere effort and transformation. Forgiveness, in Cayce's framework, is a cosmic principle as vital as cause and effect. It is not simply a human emotion, but a force that facilitates the soul's return to harmony with the Creator. This does not erase accountability. Rather, it allows for the release of judgment and the fostering of compassion, enabling the soul to break free from destructive cycles. Grace, then, becomes the medium through which redemption is possible, weaving a path toward restoration, even for those with the darkest histories. The philosophical tension arises in how we reconcile this infinite mercy with the undeniable reality of past suffering. If souls can return to start over, what does this say about justice for victims? Cayce's answer suggests that cosmic justice transcends human notions of immediate retribution. It operates on a grander scale, where the ultimate goal is the healing of all souls involved, perpetrators and victims alike, through a process that may span many lifetimes. This broader view challenges us to expand our empathy and reconsider our assumptions about good and evil. In essence, Cayce's teachings push us to embrace a vision where redemption is universal and unconditional, reflecting the divine nature's boundless capacity for renewal. The controversial Cayce exemplifies this philosophy, demonstrating that no soul is beyond hope, and that the journey toward the light is open to all who choose to seek it. The profound philosophical questions raised by this Cayce. It's important to understand that Cayce's controversial reading was far from an isolated incident. Throughout his extensive body of work, Cayce repeatedly identified past lives that defied simple moral categorizations and illustrated the cyclical and complex nature of the soul's journey. These parallel cases further underscore his core theme. Souls are dynamic beings whose paths weave through darkness and light, failure and triumph, sin and sanctity. In several readings, Cayce revealed that spiritual figures renowned for their virtue and enlightenment had themselves experienced lifetimes marked by profound challenges and even moral failings. For instance, he spoke of souls who in one incarnation might have been ascetics or teachers of higher truth, but in another had succumbed to temptation or ignorance. This demonstrated the fluidity of spiritual status and emphasized that holiness is not fixed but cultivated over many lifetimes. Conversely, Cayce also documented cases of souls who began their journey steeped in wrongdoing or selfishness, but gradually transformed into embodiments of compassion and service. These individuals often returned in later incarnations as saints, healers, or leaders dedicated to uplifting humanity. Their stories reflected the potential for redemption and growth inherent in every soul, regardless of its origins or past actions. Together, these examples reinforce the idea that the soul's trajectory is neither linear nor predictable. Rather, then moving inexorably toward perfection or damnation. Souls navigate a winding path filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. Each life provides new opportunities to address unresolved karma, learn important lessons, and refine character. Cayce's consistent emphasis on this cyclical complexity challenges simplistic narratives of good versus evil. Instead, he portrayed spiritual evolution as a continuous process of becoming, where identities and roles shift as the soul adapts and grows. The controversial case at the center of our discussion fits neatly within this larger pattern, illustrating how even the darkest pasts are woven into a broader tapestry of transformation. By situating this case alongside others in Cayce's readings, we see a holistic vision of reincarnation that embraces paradox and encourages compassion. It reminds us that no soul is permanently fixed in one state and that the spiritual journey is an ongoing, dynamic process of awakening. It is illuminating to consider how his views align and contrast with other traditions and modern scientific research. While Cayce's readings were steeped in a Christian spiritualist framework, the core ideas he presented share intriguing parallels with both ancient religious teachings and contemporary investigations into past lives. In modern reincarnation research, one of the most prominent figures is Dr. Ian Stevenson, whose decades-long studies documented thousands of cases of children recalling past lives. Stevenson's empirical approach often centered on verifying memories, birthmarks, and behaviors that aligned with previous incarnations. His findings strongly supported the idea that souls carry forward unresolved karma and lessons, mirroring Cayce's concept of cause and effect spanning lifetimes. Stevenson, like Cayce, viewed reincarnation not as punishment but as a natural process of soul growth and healing. When we turn to Eastern traditions, similarities become even more apparent. Tibetan Buddhism, for example, deeply embraces the concept of rebirth as a continuous cycle influenced by karma. The Tibetan Book of the Dead vividly describes the soul's journey through intermediate states, emphasizing compassion and spiritual progress. Similarly, Hinduism articulates reincarnation as samsara, where the soul transmigrates until achieving moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. These traditions also reject eternal damnation, focusing instead on karmic balance and spiritual evolution. However, Cayce's framework is somewhat unique in its synthesis of Christian theology with spiritualist ideas of reincarnation. Western Christianity traditionally rejected reincarnation, emphasizing resurrection and final judgment instead. Cayce's readings, by contrast, presented reincarnation as a divine system consistent with Christian values of forgiveness, grace, and redemption. This hybrid approach set him apart and contributed to both the appeal and controversy of his work, especially among those raised in more orthodox religious settings. Despite these differences, the universal threads linking Cayce, modern researchers like Stevenson, and Eastern philosophies highlight a shared understanding. The soul's journey is marked by continual transformation, shaped by past actions, and aimed toward ultimate unity with the divine or enlightenment. This cross-cultural and interdisciplinary resonance lends credence to the idea that reincarnation and karma are not mere metaphysical speculation, but deeply ingrained principles influencing human experience across time and tradition. In comparing these perspectives, we gain a richer appreciation for the complexity and depth of reincarnation as a concept, one that transcends cultural boundaries and offers a profound lens through which to view the soul's evolution. If we accept the profound possibility that Edgar Cayce was right, that our souls are woven from threads extending through countless past lives, it challenges us to reconsider everything about how we understand ourselves and our struggles. Each one of us might carry echoes from previous incarnations, imprints of experiences both noble and dark. These hidden legacies could manifest as inexplicable fears, emotional wounds, or patterns that repeat despite our best efforts to change. What feels like bad luck or inherited trauma might be unresolved karmic threads seeking attention and healing. This perspective invites us to shift from seeing life's difficulties as random or solely external events to viewing them as meaningful opportunities for growth and self-awareness. If our present circumstances are influenced by past life choices, then our current actions take on a new weight. They are not only shaping this lifetime, but also contributing to the soul's ongoing evolution. Recognizing this can be both daunting and empowering. It means that healing isn't just about fixing surface problems, but involves a deeper, spiritual responsibility, an invitation to engage consciously with our inner world. How do we begin this process of spiritual responsibility now, rather than postponing it until another lifetime? Cayce's reading suggests several pathways: cultivating compassion, practicing forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, and embracing the lessons life presents without resistance. Meditation, self-reflection, and acts of service can help unravel karmic knots by fostering awareness and positive transformation. More than anything, this means living with intention, understanding that every choice matters, not just for the immediate outcome, but for the soul's broader journey. Furthermore, this framework encourages us to suspend judgment of ourselves and others, recognizing that even those who have caused harm carry souls striving toward redemption can deepen our empathy and patience. It's a call to see beyond surface behaviors and appreciate the complexity of the human spirit, always in flux, always capable of change. Ultimately, if Cayce's insights hold true, we stand at a crossroads. We can either continue unaware, potentially repeating past mistakes, or we can take active steps toward healing, growth, and enlightenment in this very life. By embracing this responsibility, we honor not only our own souls, but contribute to the healing of collective karma, a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves. At the heart of Cayce's teachings lies a profound and hopeful truth: no soul is ever truly lost. Even those who, in past incarnations, have caused great harm possess the remarkable capacity to change, to evolve, and to reclaim their place in the light. This idea, radical in its compassion and scope, challenges us to rethink everything we assume about judgment, justice, and redemption. The controversial case we have explored is unsettling precisely because it confronts us with this very truth, showing that beneath the surface of ordinary lives can lie histories both dark and complex, yet always open to transformation. What this case reveals is the astonishing mercy woven into the fabric of the universe. The soul's journey is not random or cruel. It is precise, deliberate, and designed to provide every opportunity for growth. The suffering the individual experiences is not a punishment, but a pathway, a necessary passage through which empathy, humility, and healing emerge. This mercy extends universally, encompassing all souls regardless of their past mistakes or failings. In this light, the most controversial reincarnation case Cayce ever studied becomes more than a curious historical footnote. It becomes a mirror held up to each of us, asking a deeply personal question: what are you here to heal? What karmic patterns might you carry, consciously or unconsciously, that call for your attention? And perhaps most importantly, how will you choose to respond, not just in this life, but across the vast landscape of your soul's existence? This story invites us to embrace our own capacity for change, to hold space for those around us who may be wrestling with their own hidden histories, and to walk forward with compassion and courage. In the endless unfolding of the soul's evolution, redemption is not a distant hope, but an ever-present possibility.